first program in our Poetry Month programming here at the Iowa City Public Library. We are, as always, very happy to have Reading Aloud with us to do a program. They're going to be doing several programs this month during our poetry lessons. So we're going to get started today is 19th century poems, and it was curated by Chuck Felling. So I'll introduce Ina, and she can tell you what we're doing.
So welcome to Poetry Month. You may notice that there is a different title on the screen. This is not, you may love poems written by women, and we do too, but that will be in 2 weeks and not today. Today it will be a sampler of 19th century poetry. And what is correct is that this program was curated by Chuck Felling. And I hope Chuck will stand, please, because he is the one who chose the subject and chose the poems, and we're very grateful to him. He also has the distinction of being the member of Reading Aloud who was there from the very beginning in 2005. Yay! Okay. It's good to have a program of 19th century poems, because in Reading Aloud, recently we have tended to read poems written in the 20th and 21st centuries, sometimes written the day before yesterday. But it's good as a corrective to know that there was good poetry written earlier than that, and it's fun to read it. We will have, as Terry said, we will have 2 more programs this month, one in 2 weeks, which is Women's Voices in Poetry, and a third one on Monday the 22nd, which is called Beasts, Bugs, and Birds, and that one is curated by Nancy Lynch. I want to introduce the readers from there, but you in the audience know all these people. Michael Chan, Chuck we know, Kathy Mitchell, Carrie Malone, Mary Gutman, Connie Peterson, Betty Norbeck, I'm Ina Lowenberg, and please hold your applause until the end of the program. What have I forgotten? Nancy Lynch, you're not sitting in the front row. I guess the front row is, I'm sorry. Okay, so now we will begin with a sampler of 19th century poems.
Home Thoughts from Abroad by Robert Browning. Oh, to be in England now that April's there, and whoever wakes in England see some morning unaware that the lowest boughs and the brushwood sheaf round the elm tree bole are in tiny leaf, where the chaffinch sings on the orchard bough in England now. And after April, when May follows, and the white-throat bills and all the swallows, hark, when my blossomed pear tree in the hedge leans to the field and scatters on the clover blossoms in dewdrops at the bent spray's edge. That's the wise thrush. He sings each song twice over. Lest you think he never could recapture the first fine, careless rapture. And though the fields look rough with hoary dew, and will be gay when noontime wakes anew, the buttercups, the little children's dower, far brighter than this gaudy melon flower.
Here are 2 poems by Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Sonnets from the Portuguese. I think of thee, my thoughts do twine and bud about thee as wild vines about a tree. Put out broad leaves and soon there's naught to see except the straggling green which hides the wood. Yet, O my palm tree, be it understood, I will not have my thoughts instead of thee, who are dearer, better. Rather, instantly renew thy presence, as a strong tree should, rustle thy boughs and rustle thy boughs and set thy trunk all bare, and let those bands of greenery which insphere thee drop heavily down, burst, shattered everywhere. Because in this deep joy to see and hear thee, and breathe within thy shadow a new air, I do not think of thee. I am too near thee. The second poem. Beloved, thou hast brought me many flowers, plucked in the garden all the summer through, and winter, and it seemed as if they grew in this close room, nor missed the sun and showers. So in the like name of that love of ours, take back these thoughts which here unfolded to, and which on warm and cold days I withdrew from my heart's ground. Indeed, those beds and bowers be overgrown with bitter weeds and rue, and wait thy wet weeding. Yet here's eglantine, here's ivy, take them as I used to do, thy flowers, and keep them where they shall not pine, and instruct thine eyes to keep their colors true, and tell thy soul their roots are left in mine.
A Bird Came Down the Walk by Emily Dickinson. A bird came down the walk he did not know I saw. He bit an angleworm in halves and ate the fellow raw. And then he drank a dew from a convenient grass and then hopped sideways to the wall to let a beetle pass. He glanced with rapid eyes that hurried all around. They looked like frightened beads, I thought. He stirred his velvet head like one in danger. Curious, I offered him a crumb, and he unrolled his feathers and rode him from softer home than oars divide the ocean. 2 silver for a seam or butterflies off banks of noon leap splashless as they swim.
The Rhodora by Ralph Waldo Emerson. On being asked, whence is the flower? In May, when sea winds pierced our solitudes, I found the fresh rhodora in the woods, spreading its leafless blooms in a damp nook to please the desert and sluggish brook. The purple petals fallen in the pool made the black water with their beauty gay. Here might the red bird come his plumes to cool, and court the flower that cheapens his array. Rhodora, if the sages ask thee why this charm is wasted on the earth and sky, tell them, dear, that if eyes were made for seeing, then beauty is its own excuse for being. Why thou wert there, O rival of the rose, I never thought to ask, I never knew. But in my simple ignorance suppose the self-same power that brought me there brought you.
Sun and shadow by Oliver Wendell Holmes. As I look from the isle, o'er its billows of green, to the billows of foam-crested blue, yon bark that afar in the distance is seen, half dreaming my eyes will pursue. Now dark in the shadow, she scatters the spray, as the chaff in the stroke of the flail. Now white is the seagull, she flies on her way, the sun gleaming bright on her sail. Yet her pilot is thinking of dangers to shun, of breakers that whiten and soar. How little he cares if in shadow or sun they see him who gaze from the shore. He looks to the beacon that looms from the reef, to the rock that is under his lee. As he drifts on the blast like a wind-wafted leaf, or the gulfs of the desolate sea. Thus, drifting afar to the dim vaulted caves where life and its ventures are laid, the dreamers who gaze while we battle the waves may see us in sunshine or shade. Yet true to our course, though the shadows grow dark, we'll trim our broad sail as before and stand by the rudder that governs the bark, nor ask how we look from the shore.
Good afternoon. I'm going to read two poems by Gerard, Manley, Hopkins. The first one is Inversnade. This darksome burn, horseback brown, his roll rock high road roaring down, in coop and in comb, the fleece of his foam flutes and low to the lake falls home. A wimpole bonnet of fawn froth turns and twindles over the broth of a pool so pitch black, fell frowning, it rounds and rounds, despair to drowning. Degged with dew, dappled with dew, are the groins of the braes that the brook treads through, wiry heathpacks, flitches of fern, and the bed bonny ash that sits over the burn. What would the world be once bereft of wet and wildness? Let them be left, oh, let them be left, wildness and wet. Long live the weeds and the wilderness yet. Binsey Poplars, felled, 1879. My aspens dear, whose airy cages quelled or quenched in leaves the leaping sun, all felled, all are felled. Of a fresh and following folded rank, not spared not one, that dandled a sandaled shadow that sang or sank on meadow and river and wind-wandering, weed-winding bank. Oh, if we but knew what we do when we delve or hew, hack and rack the growing green, since country is so tender, to touch her being so slender that, like this sleek and seeing ball, but a prick will make no eye at all. Where we, even where we mean to mend her, we end her when we hew or delve. After comers cannot guess the beauty bin, 10 or 12, only 10 or 12 strokes of havoc unselve. The sweet, especial scene, rural scene, a rural scene, sweet, especial, rural scene.
Two poems by Emma Lazarus. Echoes. Late born and woman-souled, I dare not hope the freshness of the elder lays, the might of manly modern passion shall alight upon my muse's lips, nor may I cope who, veiled and screened by womanhood, must grope with the world's strong-armed warriors and recite the dangers, wounds, and triumphs of the fight, twanging the full-stringed lyre through all its scope. But if thou ever in some lake-floored cave, o'erbrowed by rocks, a wild voice wooed and heard, answering at once from heaven and earth and wave, lending elf music to thy harshest word, misprize not these echoes that belong to one in love with solitude and song. The second poem is called 1492 and perhaps needs a word of introduction because Lazarus begins by saying, "Thou two-faced year." Now, why was 1492 two-faced? We all associate it with Christopher Columbus, but it also was the year in which Spain expelled its Jews who did not convert. So, thou two-faced year, mother of change and fate, didst weep when Spain cast forth with flaming sword the children of the prophets of the Lord. Prince, priest, and people spurned by zealot hate, hounded from sea to sea, from state to state, the West refused them and the East abhorred. No anchorage the known world could afford. Close-locked was every port, barred every gate. Then, smiling, thou unveiledst, O two-faced year, a virgin world where doors of sunset part, saying, "Ho, all who weary, enter here. There falls each ancient barrier that the art of race or creed or rank devised to rear grim, bulwarked hatred between heart and heart."
Two poems by Henry Wordsworth Longfellow. First one, "The tide rises, the tide falls." The tide rises, the tide falls, the twilight darkens, the curlew calls. Along the sea sand, stem and brown, the traveler hastens toward the town. And the tide rises, the tide falls. Darkness settles on roofs and walls, but the sea in darkness calls. The little waves with the soft white hands efface the footprints in the sands. And the tide rises, the tide falls. The morning breaks, the steeds in the stalls stamp and neigh as the hostler calls. The day returns, but nevermore returns the traveler to the shore. And the tide rises, the tide falls. The second one, "The Song of the Sea." The sea awoke at midnight from your sleep and round the pebbly beaches far and wide. I heard the first wave of the rising tide rush onward with uninterrupted sweep. A voice out of the silence of the deep, a song mysteriously multiplied as of a cataract from the mountain side, or roar of winds upon the wooded steep, so comes to us at times from the unknown and inaccessible solitudes of being, the rushing of the sea tides of the soul. And inspirations that we deem our own are some divine foreshadowing and foreseeing of things beyond our reason or control.
This is a poem by Herman Melville, Art. In placid hours, well pleased we dream of many a brave, unbodied scheme, but formed to lend, pulsed life create, what unlike things must meet and mate? A flame to melt, a wind to freeze, sad patience, joyous energies, humility, yet pride and scorn, instinct and study, love and hate, audacity, reverence. These must mate and fuse with Jacob's mystic heart to wrestle with the angel, art.
Two poems by Edgar Allan Poe. Take this kiss upon the brow, and in parting from you now, thus much let me avow, you are not wrong, who deem that my days have been a dream, yet if hope has flown away in a night or in a day, in a vision or in none, is it therefore the less gone? All that we see or seem is but a dream, within a dream. I stand amid the roar of the surf-tormented shore, and I hold within my hand grains of the golden sand. How few, and yet how they creep through my fingers to the deep, while I weep, while I weep. Oh God, can I not grasp them a tighter clasp? Oh God, can I not save one from the pitiless wave? Is all that we see or seem but a dream within a dream? Annabel Lee. It was many and many a year ago in the kingdom by the sea that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden, she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child, and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea, but we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee, with a love that the winged seraph of heavens coveted her and me. And this was the reason that long ago in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabel Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me to shut her up in a sepulchre in the kingdom by the sea. The angels, not so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. But our love was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many far wiser than we. And neither the angels in heaven above nor the demons down in the sea can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee.
A Summer Afternoon by James Whitcomb Riley. A languid atmosphere, A lazy breeze with labored respiration moves the wheat from distant reaches till the golden seas break in crisp whispers at my feet. My book, neglected of an idle mind, hides for a moment from the eyes of men, or, lightly opened by a critic wind, affrightedly reviews itself again. Off through the haze that dances in the shine, the warm sun showers in the open glade, the forest lies, a silhouette design dimmed through and through with shade. A dreamy day, and tranquilly I lie at anchor from all storms of mental strain, with absent vision gazing at the sky like one that hears it rain. The katydid, so boisterous last night, clinging, inverted in uneasy poise, beneath a wheat blade, has quite forgotten if Katy did or didn't make a noise. The twitter, sometimes, of a wayward bird that checks the song abruptly at the sound and mildly, chiding echoes that have stirred, sink into silence, all the more profound.
Two poems by Robert Louis Stevenson. First, Good and Bad Children. Children, you are very little, and your bones are very brittle. If you would grow great and stately, you must try to walk sedately. You must still be bright and quiet, and content with simple diet, and remain, through all bewildering, innocent and honest children. Happy hearts and happy faces, happy play in grassy places. That was how in ancient ages children grew to kings and sages. But the unkind and the unruly and the sort who eat unduly, they must never hope for glory. Theirs is quite a different story. Cruel children, crying babies, all grow up as geese and gabies, hated as their age increases by their nephews and their nieces. The next one is Windy Nights, Robert Louis Stevenson. Whenever the moon and stars are set, whenever the wind is high, all night long in the dark and wet, a man goes riding by. Late in the night when the fires are out, why does he gallop and gallop about? Whenever the trees are crying loud and ships are tossed at sea, by on the highway low and loud, by at the gallop goes he. By at the gallop he goes, and then by he comes back at the gallop again.
Silent Noon by Christina Rossetti. Your hands lie open in the long fresh grass. The finger points look through like rosy blooms. Your eyes smile peace. The pasture gleams and glooms 'neath billowing skies that scatter and amass. All around our nest, far as the eye can pass, our golden kingcup, fields with silver edge, where the cow parsley skirts the hawthorn hedge. 'Tis visible silence, still as the hourglass. Deep in the sun-searched growths, the dragonfly hangs like a blue thread loosened from the sky. So this winged hour is dropped to us from above. Oh, clasp we to our hearts for deathless dower, this close, companioned, inarticulate hour, when twofold silence was the song of love.
Daffodils by William Wordsworth. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle in the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not be but gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. I feel like I should dance up.
How Doth the Little Crocodile by Lewis Carroll. How doth the little crocodile improve his shining tail and pour the waters of the Nile on every golden scale. How cheerfully he seems to grin, how neatly spreads his claws, and welcomes little fishies in with gently smiling jaws.
Sympathy by Paul Laurence Dunbar. I know what the caged bird feels. Alas, when the sun is bright on the upland slopes, when the wind stirs soft through the springing grass, and the river flows like a stream of glass, when the first bird sings and the first bud opes, and the faint perfume from its chalice steals, I know what the caged bird feels. I know why the caged bird beats his wing till its blood is red on the cruel bars. For he must fly back to his perch and cling, when he fain would be on the bough a swing. And a pain still throbs in the old scars, and they pulse again with a keener sting. I know why he beats his wing. I know why the caged bird sings. Ah, me, when his wing is bruised and his bosom sore, when he beats his bars and he would be free, it is not a carol of joy and glee, but a prayer that he sends from his heart's deep core, but a plea that upward to heaven he flings. I know why the caged bird sings.
Paul Dunbar's parents were slaves, and he was raised in Dayton, Ohio, and was a quite accomplished writer. He started writing from his observations when he was just a little boy. And so it's appropriate that we're leaving the 19th century with him, because he was kind of in the gap. He died very young, early in the 19th century. He was 33 years old. But this is one of the little songs that he would sing, I guess. The Made-to-Order Smile by Paul Laurence Dunbar. When a woman looks up at you with a twist about her eyes, and her brows are half uplifted in a nicely feigned surprise as you breathe some pretty sentence, though she hates you all the while, she's very apt to stun you with a made-to-order smile. It's a subtle combination of a sneer and a caress, and a dash of warmth thrown in to relieve the iciness. She greets you when she meets you with that look as if a file had been used to fix and fashion out the made-to-order smile. I confess that I am eccentric and am not a woman's man, for they seem to be constructed on the bunco faker plan. And it somehow sets me thinking that her heart is full of guile when a woman looks up at me with a made-to-order smile. Now all maidens, young and aged, hear the lesson I would teach. Ye who meet us in the ballroom, ye who meet us at the beach, pray consent to try and charm us by some other sort of wile, and relieve us from that burden of the made-to-order smile. Thank you all.
So our next Poetry Month program will be in 2 weeks, Wednesday at noon, curated by Carrie Malone, Women's Voices in Poetry. And then the Monday following that, Beasts, Bugs, and Birds, curated by Nancy Lynch, our final program. Celebrating poetry. Thank you.
And if you'd like to see this program again, look to our Facebook page or to our Instagram page or to our Twitter page, and it'll be repeated throughout the month, as will the other programs. So thank you all for coming, and please join us again in 2 weeks.